Hello everybody out there. So it's video number 3 and trying to perfect this whole making videos, but they'll never be perfect. Things like that when you put your hands on your face, it's like, oh well, it's going to keep it honest, keep it rolling. It's not the kind of thing I'm going to try to edit or whatever. So well, today we got some Mike Oldfield in the house, and I pulled out this. Well, I recently watched the documentary about how he made the album Tubular Bells, and it was quite a fascinating story. And if any of you saw the movie The Exorcist, well, he did the soundtrack for that. Anyway, so right now I'm listening to, in a little bit more space here, listening to this album here, Omadon. I'm going to get the glare away from the camera. Omadon by Mike Oldfield. There's him on the recorder. One of those albums where, of course, he played all the instruments, and inside it, I forgot there was this other album that he had put out called Crime of Passion. Anyway, it's kind of like an EP with 2 songs, and it's the first thing I played. So here we go. He's playing his jigs again. But what I like about Mike Oldfield is he takes you through various moods, like Andreas Vollenweider. Kind of has an art for taking you through a musical journey, and Andreas Vollenweider is like the hard to compare them really, but he's a master of that. Anyway, today we're gonna hopefully keep it as short as possible. I got some cereal I want to eat here, but I'm looking at this collection. I'm realizing it's actually quite complete, and what's really cosmic about today's video number 3, is my very first album I ever got in my entire record collection. I had a couple collections. I'm on my second collection. This is part of it here and behind me, just a small segment of it. The rest is in back rooms in the library and stuff back there in the back of the place. But the very first album that I ever owned in my whole life, I was 13 years old. I'm dating myself here now. And was this album here, Styx, Cornerstone. And in those days, I'd kind of taken it upon myself to call them my favorite band. And looking back, I'm kind of proud of that actually, because I ended up over here some synthesizers. I'm not going to bother showing them, but started getting into playing keyboards many years later. Or even before this, I was a piano player. As a kid, I played the piano a lot. And music lessons and all that stuff, but I really got into Styx when I was about 13, and this was the first album I ever got in my entire collection, so it's kind of wanted to show that first, even though the rest of this will be a chronological expose of my Styx collection. So I don't know, I kind of like to think this music sort of changed my life, and going back and hearing it again, it's a bit naive and poppy and all that, because now I'm into some more heavier stuff, but ambient music and all that, classical music. But I go back and I realize, they're such a good band. They're from Chicago, and they were various names before they actually came up with Styx in, I believe, the late 60s. And one of my some of my albums are in plastic shrink wrap. I'd like to get more of this plastic wrappers. My favorite albums I have in plastic, anyway. Like the electronic music and various prog rock things. So this album, it's worth a lot of money to me, and I'd never sell it. And it's not the original pressing, and it's not the original cover. The original cover was a bit racier looking. I think the band was kind of like surrounded in dry ice and fog, and they were kind of semi-clothed from the waist down or waist up, or variously. Anyway, it was a great cover, but I'd love to have it with that cover. It'd be worth a lot of money. But I have this, which is my second installment now, anyway, of this album. I bought it when I was a teenager, and then I bought it again around the time my daughter was born. And Styx 1 is actually, it's a good start. It's got some of the progressive rock roots in there. You can see how they're inspired by you know, maybe Emerson, Lake and Palmer or Yes or whatever, those kind of bands. You could see their European roots showing through. The album where I think they really actually sort of see it as one of my, this album and I don't know, maybe Crystal Ball or Grand Illusion. I see it as two peaks that they had in their career. For some reason, Styx 2 really struck a nerve, and it was their first big hit. Came off this album, was a big hit for them later on. This album came out in 1974. The first one here I showed you came out in 72, I believe. And I could be wrong about that. But anyway, get a good look at the cover. I'm still learning how to use these cameras here, folks, so I'm a little awkward with them. So there we are. Isn't that quite a great cover with the band superimposed into the logo for the band? Styx 2. And like I say, it's one of my favorite all-time albums, even just forget about Styx, but just in general for progressive pop bands. They set the standard. And great keyboard playing, dual guitar playing. It's kind of an art rock album that's a bit unknown, and I kind of was hoping to share with you here and get some more notoriety to that record. I believe the album that came out after Styx 2, which is actually used to be a real personal favorite of mine too. Now I might be mixing up the order. Man of Miracles may have came out before this. But anyway, it's an early Styx album. Another one of those great sort of collage sort of covers. Awesome cover. I actually really always thought the graphics for this album were quite good. The Serpent is Rising, and some killer stuff by James Young. In the early days of Styx, before Tommy Shaw and all that came in the band, they had John Kierulski, but the other guitarist. James Young was like the lead singer of the band. He sang a lot more material than, and then later on they squeezed the one James Young song onto every album. And his songs just rock out. Of course, he's the hard kind of rocker of the group. I love James Young. Of all the solo albums, his was the most interesting album he did with Jan Hammer, which I'd love to get again. If anybody has Jeff Beck and Jan Hammer, I have that. That was a Freudian slip. If anybody out there in music land, the vinyl community, has that album that James Young did with Jan Hammer, I'd be willing to trade or pay money for that. Anyway, Styx Man of Miracles, another really great cover. And never listened to it as much as some of the other early ones. Styx 2 really, to me, was more a consistent album, but Man of Miracles had 2 or 3 or 4 really solid, amazing tracks, actually, in amongst some fairly pedestrian rock and roll stuff. But Styx is a great rock band, and they proved it on that album there. And now we come to, funny how that says Blue Vinyl Edition, and it gets us all excited. As collectors out there know, colored vinyl is where it's at. And nonetheless, the vinyl is, I'm not going to bother taking it out, not colored. But somebody who had this kept the blue vinyl and stuck an old vinyl in there. It's in good condition though. Best of Styx, another thing that came out in, I believe 1970, came out in 77, but it was all earlier material. And that brings us to actually another super duper personal favorite of my Styx albums. I'd say 3 stand out as all-time favorites of mine. It's hard to pick favorites of a band. I love all their albums, but Styx Equinox, the melting ice cube on fire kind of cover. I always love the cover. Special kind of place in this album, in my heart for this album. It's like, I guess it's a desert island disc, you know? If I had any Styx album I'd want to have on a desert island, I only could pick one. I guess I'd pick this one here, as a matter of fact. So there you go. I just bumped Styx 2 out of the front burner. Equinox is, I really like the production. It's a rockin' album. It's got one of their first amazing hits called Sweet Madam Blue, and it's showing Dennis DeYoung starting to kind of get in there as a songwriter, and phenomenal songwriter, great keyboard player and singer. So that takes us to, I'm trying to whiz through this. This is dragging out. It's getting long. Styx Crystal Ball, because I have to just sit back here and not move around so much. Crystal Ball, which was the first album with Tommy Shaw. And we need some more music. A little more Mike Oldfield coming for you there. Back to the first track. I think this must be getting long because the record just ended. I don't have the gatefold. I used to have that. This actually opens up, and there's even a poster, which I'm happy to own. Not enough time to show it to you. Styx Grand Illusion was 1977, and a personal favorite as well, because it was probably one of the first Styx. Some of the first Styx songs I ever heard were actually off this album, Pieces of Eight. It was before I got into buying their records, but their songs were all over the radio that summer, and Renegade was one of those songs. So we've got, but anyway, off the album, well, just to show you the record here, I think I might even have a couple copies of this gold vinyl, or maybe it's the only one. Hard to keep track. I've got a lot of copies, a lot of second copies of Styx albums too, so, because they're a bit common. As common as these records are, especially around this era, I'd say those of you out there, if you can get one of these for $1, or even $5 or $10, you know, grab them up, because these Styx albums, even the songs that didn't make the radio, or some of those songs are better. So I'm trying to keep things chronologic here. We've already shown you this. Cornerstone, great album. That introduced me to Styx back in the day. And that was 1979. In 1980, I believe this was, or 81. I think it was 80. I'm not going to bother trying to whiz through these and call it quits here, but what a great cover. Definitely an amazingly done cover. Great painting. Before and after. This is the theater in the 20s. Or actually, this is the theater in the 80s. An actual place, you know, in downtown Chicago called Paradise Theater. And this is what it would have looked like in the roaring 20s or 30s. And their metaphor for the crumbling state of America. And don't get me started. I'm not going to make anything political here. But their political expose on America, which is a big theme in Styx's music. They're very sort of spiritual and patriotic, but patriotic in kind of a homespun sort of hippie way, you know? They're not right-wing or anything like that. Styx, really great band. Very, very optimistic lyrics. I think there's a lot of... This is a treasure of an album. My friend Boot says he really loves this album. And I love it too. I overlooked it in the earlier days. It was a bit poppy, but looking back, Kilroy Was Here was a phenomenally good album. And last but not least, of my Styx vinyl, Caught in the Act is a live album. Kind of caps everything up for their 70s era. They did stuff after Tommy Shaw, I think, even left or something, and Dennis DeYoung was out, and then they got Larry Gowan, and Styx had been through a lot of changes, but to me this was the golden era. I love that band even now, but cheers, folks. Hope you liked my Styx collection. Next video we'll play we'll get some more obscure stuff on the go. Signing off. Take care, everybody.